Hello everyone and welcome to PUAN Alumni Voices. I'm Rimsha and today I have with me two fantastic alumni. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Mr. Harris Khalique. He's a leading Urdu and English language poet from Pakistan and a University of Iowa honorary fellow in writing. Welcome.
Thank you, Rimsha.
Thank you. And right next to me is Gulalai Ismail. She is a human rights activist and the chairperson of Aware Girls Pakistan. She attended the IVLP program in 2013. So welcome, Gulalai.
Thank you.
So we'll start off the show by talking about your exchange program. Both of you went on two completely different programs, and yours was the IVLP, which was a 6-week long program, and your fellowship was 3 months long. So take us through the journey of how it was like being in the US.
I went to IVLP in 2013, and the theme of our exchange program was civic engagement. And when I went, we went with an amazing team of young activists from Pakistan. And when we went to the US, we met with different people who were the main theme of what they were doing were giving back to their community. Almost everyone whom we met, they believed that because they have gained so much from their community, they also have the responsibility to give back to their community. So they had kind of like started different enterprises and different programs to invest back in their community. So one of the things that I learned from those organizations was that most of those organizations, they were able to fundraise from their own local communities. So kind of they were giving back to their community, and then they were getting to the network of people who believed they should go give back to their community. So they were raising funds from their own communities, and then they were working on the issues which were close to their communities. For example, if child abuse was a major issue in some of the communities, they were working on child abuse. If economic empowerment was an issue in one community, they were working on economic empowerment. So that was a very interesting lesson for me, that how people actually give back to their community. My inspiration when I came, one of my dream was to start a social enterprise with women who live in disadvantaged communities, and then to enable women to earn from that enterprise. Right. Because usually what happens that there are women in disadvantaged communities, they do have skills, they do make products, but usually the profit of the product goes to the middleman, and the product does not go to the women who make the product. So that was like one big dream I wanted to do after the IVLP program. Right. And just last month, we were able to actually realize that dream. So we started an enterprise, its name is Jalke.
Very nice.
And it's so women in the disadvantaged communities, they make products, and the profit goes directly to the woman, and a small portion of the profit goes to initiatives of girls' education.
That's fantastic. We'd love to learn more about it, but Harris, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Thank you very much, Rimsha, and thank you, Gulalai. I think it was a fascinating experience, if you ask me. For two reasons. One is personal, and one is political, as it were, for want of a better term. I mean, in terms of understanding how average American citizen or an educated American citizen, but still a common person who we do not come across that easily in Pakistan, because we get to meet either diplomats or visiting politicians. So how do they view Pakistan? I think it was very interesting to understand that. And it was also very interesting in the political sense, before I come to the personal, to see, how does the modern new generation and the modern American mind works and functions, and the kind of critical mass that has been gathered in their universities and academic and educational institutions, as well as think tanks. I think that was a very interesting experience and an enriching experience. At a personal level, I got an opportunity to finish the first draft of the book of essays that I was planning to do for quite some time. Right. And, since I was mentioning this off camera before we started the program, that it is not easy to live off writing in Pakistan. It is not easy to live off creative writing anywhere in the world, for that matter, unless you really make it big. But in Pakistan, it's even more difficult, given the kind of constraints in which we live and the kind of a developing country that we are. So it was a respite, and from the humdrum, mundane, day-to-day routine and existence that one has here, and it gave me the opportunity to finish that work. So I think that was really really fruitful in that sense. Then I also got to travel. I was invited because of I was there in Iowa as a writer in residence. I was invited to other places like Berkeley and Texas, and in Wisconsin and New York and DC and Pittsburgh, to speak about my work, and also to listen to local writers and poets. And then some of my perhaps it was for the first time, if not for the first time, among I would probably be among very few poets who write in Urdu, whose poetry was composed with jazz music.
Oh, wow.
So I think so that kind of opportunities and some dance performances took place.
Right.
On the basis of the poetry that I did, and of course some of my colleagues who were there from other countries. So it was overall a very fruitful, enriching, and fascinating experience.
But can you pinpoint one specific moment from that time span that you spent in the US that you found to be something quite memorable for you, personally or professionally?
Well, I think the thing which is most memorable for me is that through that exchange program, it was not just about going and meeting organizations, it was also about exploring the culture, because it's an exchange. So we went to see different cities of US. It was not just like DC or New York. We went to different parts of the US. Right. We explored their culture. We went to California. Okay. And we were in DC as well for some time, and then in Kalamazoo. So like that was like Kalamazoo is such a different name, and like the culture was very different. The place was very different. We went to beaches. That was like also one of the most beautiful part. But kind of in terms of learning, as I said, that one of the thing I still remember like very vividly is that people give back to their communities. They own their issues. They own their local issues, and they believe that they have to solve their local issues.
There were more than one memorable moments. I mean, if you ask me, but I think the overall, I think the the composition. I mean, when dances were choreographed, and my poetry was used. I mean, I think. Most of the poems that they used were written by were my poems, so it was a really gratifying experience at one level, and it was wonderful work. I mean, there is this group of young dancers outside Washington DC who took months to prepare, and when we were on our way back, we stopped there and watched those performances. So that was really gratifying, as I said, but also in terms of the academic and the intellectual stimulus that you get, because I was staying, I mean, something that was not a moment, but a perpetual experience for 10 weeks, was that I was living about not even half a mile, a quarter of a mile away from 16 million books and e-books and films. The University of Iowa library was just a 10-minute walk from where I was living. So that was and the possibilities that the library. I think one of the North American, rather not American, United States wonders of US is the library system that they have in the universities. So that was something truly remarkable, and living there and being able to just to smell and touch those books. Yeah. You can't read 16 million books, even in 7 lifetimes. Yeah. But it just gives you a different feeling, and then. Something that was really, I mean, that moment when I asked the librarian, that, how many books can I borrow? She said, how many can you carry?
Oh, wow.
So, and for how long? She said, for whenever. I mean, as long as you wish to keep them, and but just return those to us when you are through with these books. So you see, so that was really stimulating. But as I was telling you that I had locked myself in my room for a month, did not party at all. And for 1 month and finish the draft. But during that period, when I would get bored of writing, I would again pick up a book. So so quite a few books I could finish, which I had borrowed from the library, but which I also bought from the bookstores.
So now let's fast forward to when you got back to Pakistan. How did you implement all that you had learned over there in the US? You just shared with us how you started off with your social enterprise. But then I'd like to talk a little bit more about Aware Girls and how did that impact the activism work that you were already doing over here?
So as I said, that volunteerism or giving back to the community was one of my key learnings from my exchange program. So when we came back, one of the program which we started at that was active citizenship program with young people, and it was based on the same model that gives citizenship education to young people so that they know what are their rights as member of community and what are their responsibilities as member of their communities. And once these young people would get that training from us, it would be like a 4 to 5 days training. Then they would develop their own action plans. They would identify any issue from their community, and we would train them that they have to raise their own resources, the resources from their community, from their friends, to implement their program. So that was one of the program that we started with, that we learned that to be an active citizen, they need to know more about their governance system. They need to know more about the constitution of their country. So we started a political empowerment program for young people, specifically for young women. We mostly work Aware Girls, as it is a young woman-led organization, and the purpose of establishing Aware Girls in 2002 was to create platforms to young women of the northwest of Pakistan. So we are mostly working with young women. So when we started the political empowerment program, in which we give leadership programs, leadership training to young women on how to be more politically active, which includes both skills and education and knowledge in terms of constitution, governance system, how people are elected, or how the whole system work, what are laws to protect their rights, what are the gaps in the laws, how they can be an active advocate, and how they can be an active community mobilizer. Yes, it's a complete civic education now. And beside giving them education, we started giving them exchange opportunities with parliamentarians and political parties. So we started organizing policy dialogues for them, so that these young women who are getting training and who are so much aware of their issue, they started engaging with politicians on what are their issues and what are their expectations from the political parties or from the politicians. So that was one part. And then in 2013, actually, when elections were happening in Pakistan, we did the first ever young women-led election monitoring in Pakistan. We developed a team of 100 young women, and believe me, when we were starting, when we had this idea that we want young women to monitor the elections, we want young women to go to the polling stations and see what are the challenges to women when they come for voting, or what prevents them from coming to the polling stations. At that time, it seems like an unbelievable idea, because we all know that how limited mobility for young women is, especially in the northwest of Pakistan. And if you want to monitor election, it does not just mean like going for an hour. It means you have to be in the polling station at 6 a.m. and you have to be there till midnight. You have to be there even till the time when the counting is complete. So it may be even later than midnight. So at that time, it seemed impossible. But when we started talking to young women and they started talking to their families, like there were some families who thought that no, girls, their daughters should not be in the polling station till that late. But the girls actually said, no, we had been learning political leadership skills, we had been working with the community, and today is the day that we stand up for our rights. So we are going to the polling stations no matter what. And we wanted, like, our initial idea was to develop a team of 50 young women, but we were able to develop a team of 100 young women. And we monitored elections in 3 major districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Peshawar, Mardan and Sawabi. So we did election monitoring, and then on the basis of that we developed, like, it was a very comprehensive report was developed on what challenges women are facing when they go to the polling stations, or what prevents them from coming, what influence their voting. And then on the basis of that we developed our own, we improved our political empowerment program, and we added more advocacy components. We also established citizens committees after that, so that we can engage people much more than young women. Like, we started engaging community elders, activists, in form of those citizens committees who were kind of like a link between the policymakers and young women at the community level. And recently, actually, when local elections were happening, 10 of those trained young women actually got elected in the local elections.
wow,
So that was like amazing. And all of those 10 young women, they came from communities of religious minorities, or communities or families who kind of like, who usually have nothing to do with politics, or who think that politics is not about them, or they have no one, or it's not for women, or they don't have anyone like in their family who had been a politician. So it's like something very new for them. But because now they're so much aware and trained and know their rights, like they went for elections and they won the elections, and the communities actually where we had worked, they were so supportive of those women. So that are the kind of programs that we did after our civic engagement program, or IVLP, in 2013.
And let me share here with everyone that Gulalai's sister Sabah actually also went on the IVLP. So now there are 2 IVLP alumna who are actually working on these projects. And I think the unique experience that both of you had has really complemented the work that you're doing, and this is fantastic, amazing. So Harris, tell us a little bit about your work. We know that
you see, since you've spoken about Crimson Papers, there are 4 essays in the book, and I think there is an essay which is about my generation, people a few years older and people a few years younger, which is a generation which came, which is 20 years or 25 years after partition, after creation of Pakistan, and that generation is in my essays, and my take is about our generation is characterized by 5 women, by the struggle and suffering and the lives and deaths of 5. Actually, 2 of them are alive, but 3 are dead. So these 5 women characterize the life and the experience of my generation. So I think it is very important that Pakistan is actually defined by the struggle of Pakistani women. And if there is any change, any positive change that will, and I'm not trying to appease to truly fascinating, beautiful women in whose company I'm sitting. It's actually true for Pakistani women that they are far ahead of the men folk, and the sensibility and which their struggle has brought about is remarkable. I mean, if you compare it, for instance, I give you an example. I mean, if you look at the results, the high school and the college results in Pakistan of the last 20-25 years, there will be an exception of a man to prove the rule who has actually topped any of the exams, any of the board exams, as we call them in Pakistan, or any of the college exams in Pakistan. The number of women in medicine, in law, in engineering, in other professions, in writing, as poets. I mean, the most important living poets that we have in Pakistan today, Fahmida Riaz and Kishwar Naheed, I mean, they're all women. I mean, there are men also.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting that there is nobody else, but so it is from among the Muslim societies. I think Pakistani women, also non-Muslim women in Pakistan, of course, but predominantly in a predominantly Muslim society. If you look at the world around you, Pakistani women have actually been at the forefront of changing, transforming, what the society is about. So I think, and professionally also, I work on as a team leader of Awaz Voice and Accountability Program, which focuses on increasing women's political participation and creating safe public spaces for women. So I have seen a lot of energy and a lot of, I mean, these circumstances are hostile. I mean, they are far more hostile for women than for men. And I mean, everything is not hunky-dory for men also, but women have another, extra, sort of layer of or barriers to their progress, or to their intellectual and emotional and physical, all sorts of liberation. And I think we have actually women have done us proud, and I'm very happy to say that, because I can see that the only people who can actually turn this country around are young women, older women also, but young women who are more critical than before and who are more educated than before.
Totally agree with it, and I want to build up on what you have said, that yes, women have done a lot in Pakistan, irrespective of the fact that the situations or the circumstances are so hostile for women. I think if women in Muslim countries, if they're the one who have done a lot, they're also the one who are the most oppressed creatures on this planet. And then I wanted to take that to education, like in Pakistan. Even now, because that's one of my key advocacy work now, it's on education. 25 million children right now are out of the school who could have been in school, and more than 55% of them are girls. And only 15% children in Pakistan are completing their higher secondary education. So imagine, like we are talking about why in Pakistan writers cannot earn from their writing, because only 15% people in this country are actually getting educated, and only they will be the one who by chance have the reading habit will read those books. So we need to, like, even if we want our writers to live off from their writing, so then we have to first make sure that people in Pakistan, they're able to read and write, and they are able to get quality education.
These are definitely necessary, but the good thing is that we have people like you, Gulalai, who are powering through their activism, who are actually making meaningful changes in the society where they're coming from. What you've told us about the political empowerment that you've done, the projects that you've started, especially the social enterprise that you've just recently started, which is absolutely fantastic. And that's going to help, again, empower a lot of the women in the northern areas of Pakistan that they're coming from. So before we end, any closing remarks that you would like to say?
Well, I think what I would actually build on what Gulalai has said, that literacy doesn't necessarily mean that people start reading. Unfortunately, what I have come across, because I write poetry, that people who are more interested are not necessarily, they did not have the opportunity to be literate. But I think reading as a habit and reflection, reading and reflection have to be promoted. And this whole new rhetoric about Pakistan having a youth bulge and that giving us a lot of opportunity will not work. I mean, our young unless our young people start reading and reflecting more.
Reading and reflecting more. Anything else you'd like to add?
My message for all young people, but then specifically for young women, is be critical, ask questions, and don't stay silent, because silence perpetuates more silence, and silence perpetuates more discrimination. So it's very important that we
don't be invisible.
Yes, don't be invisible, and be critical, and don't shy questioning culture, religion, or anything which is a barrier in your human rights.
Thank you once again so much for being here. It was fantastic. So till next time, bye-bye.